I've been told by everybody up on this roof that they're all off the roof. I am on the roof of exposure 4. Got fire through the roof of the fire building in the entire rear section.
Now remember, given the payday, has he been accounted for? Okay.
610B. That was the mayday. 610B.
I'm here. We got a fire. 1.5-story, single-family dwelling. Fire shown from the second floor. Give me a second alarm on this.
Coming up to the top floor. I got people hanging out the top floor windows with a baby.
Commercial building. A lot of fire, a lot of smoke. Go ahead and strike a third alarm on my orders on this.
Got people on the front fire escape here with windows vented below them. We need somebody up there.
Yeah, let them know we got a job. I'm pulling up now. Second alarm, I got a 1-story single-family frame. Heavy fire showing from the attic.
So we're using all hands. We got one line stretch, fire on the 4th floor, second line being stretched. Primary searches are underway.
Hello, and welcome to Old School. I'm John Salka. I'm here with my buddy Rick Lasky, and we're going to talk tonight about forcible entry. We talk a lot about hose, we talk a lot about ventilation, we talk a lot about extinguishment, but today we're going to talk about forcible entry, which is obviously a primary job for the fire service.
And when you say primary, it's done everywhere. Whether you have a ladder truck or not, forcible entry is done everywhere.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. Ladder truck or not, you know, squad, quint, whatever you're riding on. If you're going from a firehouse to a fire, somebody's going to be getting off the rig with some tools and getting prepared and getting ready. And sometimes it's the guys. Sometimes it's the guys with the hose. In the Bronx, where I spent the last almost 20 years of my career, 42 Engines, a single engine company, and every time they get off the rig by themselves, because the first due truck is not with them, they jump off with a set of irons. They might have to force the door to get in before the truck even gets there. And that's true of a lot of other places around America. They either don't have a truck, or they're coming from a distance, or whatever the case may be. So forcible entry is quite an important job, and it's one of those support tactics. The truck guys don't like to be told that they're supporting the engine, but actually they are. Forcible entry's got to be conducted to allow the engine to get in there, along with search and stuff.
You got to get in or to get to work, or you know.
So what do you want to start with? I mean, there's all sorts of forcible entry tactics and topics and tools. What do you want to start with?
Well, I think the first thing, John, is I don't think we spend enough time with our young firefighters training and discussing forcible entry. Sitting around the round table, the kitchen table, go, okay, we got, like whether you have a small little downtown area. We used to do it in Champaign, Illinois, for U of I, Fire Service Institute. We used to take the tactics and strategy classes that were going through the Fire Officer 1 or 2 program on a field trip. We would all drive down to like Green Street, where like downtown Champaign, you know.
Where Gary Ludwig is chief.
Where Gary Ludwig is chief, yes. So the current president of the I Chiefs, and you know we'd walk down one sidewalk, looking across the street at all the buildings, and going first floor, second floor, this entrance. Then we'd walk around the back and go, holy cow, it doesn't match up or whatever. And then we'd do it again as you're walking now. You're walking down the front. You're looking at all the lock assemblies and all that. And so I think the key is knowing what you have. That's where pre-plan comes in. Instead of just walking through and drawing pictures of, well, there's a door here and a stairwell here. Look at the doors. Look at the lock assemblies. Our good friend Chief Tommy Schervino. What a legendary, in a good way, legendary firefighter, fire officer, mentor. You know what? And you know this. I can't say enough nice things about Tommy. Tommy, I love him with my heart. He's a great guy. Tommy used to. He had a milk crate, John. He had a milk crate with all kinds of locks and parts. If somebody was tearing apart a building, he would pull over, stop, ask the construction guys, and he'd say to them like, he'd say, look, can we before you tear this out, can I have the locks? Can I cut the door here and here? Can I do this? And so on a rainy day, it's snowing like hell, whatever. All of a sudden, he'd walk in, boom, with a couple milk crates, put it right on the kitchen table. Let's go.
Right.
And he whether it was K tools and doing things with that, and pulling a lock on the kitchen table while you're sitting there with just.
I'm sitting here with my mouth open, listening to you, because two of the things so far that you said are exactly what I've been involved in, and I'm sure you folks that are listening, many of you have probably done the exact same thing. Gone out, to the commercial street or the storefront. We used to go out to Orchard Street when I was in 17 engine with 18 truck on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, Alphabet City. We used to go to Orchard Street on Sunday morning, early, before everything opened up. And all it was storefront after storefront after storefront after storefront on the first floor, below tenements, but the tenements is one what we were paying attention to. We were looking at all the locking devices and all the slide bars and the bolts and the screens and the nets and the gates. It was unbelievable. We could spend 2 hours on Orchard Street walking up and down, looking at the different locks.
And probably not see stuff.
Oh, and see stuff for the first time like, hey, Lou, look at this. Oh, my God, I've never seen one of those before. And the other thing that we did all the time was, and I know I did it, whenever I was at a job, either while it was happening or sometimes afterward, if they cut a couple of locks and the locks hit the sidewalk, when the fire was out, I'm picking those locks up, throwing them in my pocket, and I throw them in a big toolbox. And in my toolbox, I had some padlocks that were cut. We even cut a couple of padlocks in half. We sliced them in half and opened them up, and you could see the inner workings of the padlock, which was all brass, of course, so it didn't rust when the lock is hanging out in the rain all the time. And I used to carry all different type, the key tools for the K tool, which is through the lock, which we can talk about some other time. But paying attention to forcible entry. Forcible entry is a very cerebral. It's a very mental skill. Yes, you need strength. Yes, you need the big metal tools to do it too. But when you understand, like you started to say, when you understand what the locks do, a pivoting deadbolt is way different than an ordinary deadbolt.
Yes.
And when you look at a narrow style aluminum door, that there's no room for a deadbolt to slide there. It has to be a pivoting deadbolt. You know what to do. So there's certain things you know how to do, and there's certain doors that give you clues. Certain lock cylinders will give you clues. And when you start learning that, when you start instilling that in your young firefighters, then all of a sudden you'll have a young kid run up there. Hey, Cap, we need the K tool. There's a win right there. The young firefighter knew from looking at the door he needed a K tool. Instead of you hearing smash, and then there's all broken glass, and now the engine's got to drag a hose line through broken glass on a door that you could have opened in 9 seconds with a K tool. So that's the skill. That's the practice.
And
that's the training.
understanding the tool that a lot of people they can't even find it. Is it in the glove compartment? Where is it at, or whatever? So
and I told you know where I carried mine.
Where did you keep yours?
When I was in the squad, I was in the squad in Brooklyn for a couple of years, and I carried the K tool in my pocket. And I am proud to say I wore it out. I actually broke the K tool. I carried it so much, and we used it so much, and it banged onto the sidewalk so much that one day one of the blades popped off, and we had to go get another one. And I tell guys all the time, if your K tool is in a leather pouch that it was delivered in, and it's up on your dashboard or under your seat or in the glove compartment, that's where it's going to be when you open the door and put your helmet back in the rig after the fire's out. If you don't have it with you when you unash the rig, it's not going to the fire.
You're not going to run back for it.
That's right.
And I think the key, no pun intended, the key, because there's always new products coming out and everything else. There's always new locks, how to keep the bad guys out of your buildings and stuff like that. Chief Tom Freeman, you heard me talk about Tom, one of my good friends, and I consider him a mentor, taught me, there was a phrase a long time ago, John, you've heard me say it in classes before. The key to teaching firefighters how to be successful at forcible entry is teaching them to identify the weak link. Where's the weak link? We don't have to be in the design and construction, trade to understand how things are put together necessarily, as much as I got to have kind of the basic idea of what's all up there. And there's a video that I use in a class, a tactics class, and I use it in some of the force entry classes. It's a commercial building in Illinois, okay, in the north side, in the suburbs, and good guys, great fire department, daytime, fire out the second floor windows, and they are beating on this, trying to get in with this Halligan into this, obviously some commercial locks, beating on this thing, and there's like a 6-7 foot plate glass window right next to them the whole time they're beating on this lock. I've seen guys cut a $100 lock off of a 15-cent piece of chain, not thinking. You see guys, you go, wait. The weak link isn't. You got your saw. Aren't the hinges the weak link? If you just cut the hinges, or look for the, look where the pins are for the. I mean,
the chain and the lock is the best one. I lost my breath when I first realized what that story was as a young firefighter studying forcible entry. Somebody said, "Cut the chain. The chain is worth $10. That's a $100 lock, and forget the value. The difficulty of cutting that lock is much greater. Plus." The resource management. I mean, why waste a homeowner's lock or a store owner's lock?
Can pull that chain taut with a hand or with vice grips, whatever you use, and you can cut that chain, and the owner can come and unlock the lock.
And what link do you cut? You cut the link as close to the lock as you can, so when it's all done, like you said, he can unlock the lock, put it on the next new link, and relock the place without spending a penny.
And that's where the experience comes in, and that's where you senior firefighters. This is the stuff. God, man. Sit with your rookies and your probies and talk to them about that stuff. And when you're talking, say, just like you said, so what link? Well, probably because I'd want to get it stretched. No. You pull this taut here, or whatever you have to do, to hold it with a gloved hand or whatever you're doing, or
vice grips.
Close with vice grips with a chain on it or cable, whatever, and cut, like you said, cut the link close. And that's where we dropped the ball, John, because a lot of our senior guys aren't spending the time with the new guys and gals and showing them the little tricks of the trade. The little time. Let's sit down and do through the lock training with pieces at the kitchen table. Let's take a look at how we get in and how we get out, and open up. Again, everybody, they bitch about going on EMS calls, which I've never had a problem. I think I consider it a blessing. You can give me all the bad emails you want. I consider it a blessing. Take care of people's kids and their families. Can people abuse the system? Yes. But you're in their house or you're in their apartment and you're looking, you're going, did you see, look at the locket assembly they've got on the back of this thing. What look, they must have had a break in here or had a back, because there's bars going this way and things. And if we had to get in here, could you imagine? That's like when you see a good, not even truckie, but a good fire from those 4th century. Say, you know what, Rick, if I need more, like those of you that have dealt with frozen hydrants or stuck hydrants, you carry a cheater bar that you can slide over the hydrant wrench. Now you've got some oomph. Instead of that short wrench, you slide it over and you got this pipe
extra leverage
that you're pushing. Same thing. A lot of young firefighters. This is something that Jack Picasso taught me. I was 18 years old. How to mesh 2 halogen bars, the forks. How, if you're looking for more leverage, you push them together with the fork on fork.
Fork to fork, yep.
Fork on fork. And then all you got to do as you're doing it is you either hold it there or your buddy holds it there, just to get a little grip on that thing while you're chinking, pushing, whatever. Simple things like knowing your tools when it comes to 4th century. And which, like you said, I love that. I love that you said that. If it's in the leather box, it's all set. Because how many, you look at them, they're like brand new, the leather box. You go, what is that, like a CO meter or something? Some guys, no, that's our K-tool. There's not even a scrape in the leather on there.
And forget the leather, there's not even a scrape on the metal.
Yeah.
Because the K-tool's never been used, because it's never been out of the
And
leather.
it goes back to, okay, let's talk about your halogen and sliding in adds in the end. And not, a couple little chink, 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 and then being able to just pop that thing out. And if you're good at it, how many times you've said, let's just put it back in and lock the door again, and off we go. Yep. Instead of beating something to death. And there's these little, like our officer tool from Firehooks, from Frank's business, okay? For Firehooks, those little they used to call them the super pro bars, okay? And it was the little black, it had a fork end, it had a little horn on it, and then the adds
had the A cut.
Yeah, it had the A cut. And then we would wrap them like we do with
Sure.
the clothesline and the tape so it doesn't slide, with the friction tape and that. And the officers would carry that. And I'm telling you, sometimes, and don't get this in your head if you're a lieutenant or captain, by the time they turned around with what they needed, their halogen or whatever, you had the door already open with that little tiny tool in your hand.
Yep.
Because you knew how to use it.
Yep.
And some people say, go, once you get to do with that, watch them.
Right.
What if you're not just carrying around to look good?
Now I remember a couple of times as a lieutenant in the squad, and I mention that because that's the era when I really did carry the K tool. I carried it as a captain of 48 as well.
Era.
Yeah. And
that's a time period for some of our people.
Era, if you're an English major, or I thought that was actually a mistake on a baseball field, an era, but whatever. So I remember a couple of times reaching through a crowd of firefighters at the door at a commercial building with the K-tool in my hand, reaching through and saying, here, use this. And finally a gloved hand would grab it, and then you'd hear tink, 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 and the door would open up. Because I saw that maybe it was a more difficult door to get with the conventional forcible entry.
And let me ask you this. I thought you were going to say this. How many times have you seen somebody beating on something or doing something, and the experienced guy or gal, that firefighter, he or she's been doing it for a while, walks up and they go, just step aside for a second, and they turn the knob and the door opens. I've seen that happen.
I've been present at a couple
where
of
I'm
doors.
like, we're so hell bent on and good intentions. I got to force the door. I'll get it, Cap. I'll get it. That whole try before you pry.
It's so true.
Isn't it? And when you think, really guys do that? They do.
Yeah.
The door's unlocked. It's ready. You just open it up. Bad guys leave it unlocked. People leave it unlocked or unlocked or whatever.
We've done it 100 times where it's been locked. You click it. Okay, it's locked, and then you jump into it. But Once in a while, you forget to do that.
And understand your locking assemblies that some of these people try to trip up the bad guys and the burglars by this one turns this way, when this one turns this way, then this one turns this way.
My mother-in-law.
So you never know. You've got to really know which locks are locked and which ones aren't, and which way they go and which way they throw and everything else. Yeah. But I just think, John, like I said, there's I think you mentioned earlier, it's a lost art in a lot of places. Like the Halligan was to the rabbit tool that people forgot how to use. The Halligan when it came to 4th century because they were using a hydraulic tool. But it's like people forgot how to use some of the 4th century tools we had back in the old days, the porta powers, the little tiny wedges that you needed. That, you know what, I need that little tiny, looks like a heel, guys. There's a red one and a green one and a yellow. Get the little one. I got to slide it and put. Just that lost art of 4th century. Yeah. Understanding the locking mechanism, the doors, the windows. You mentioned about, God, a ton of things just saying when you talked about roll down, scissors, gates, grates, everything else.
Here's another one. What's the door made of? So here you are at the second floor apartment or a bedroom door, and it's a wooden door and a wooden frame. Obviously, we're not even going to consider using the rabbit tool. Rabbit tool is for good metal doors and metal frames, so we're not even going to use that. We're going to use, a Halligan and an axe. Now, sometimes for these inward opening doors on a bedroom or an apartment, you can take the Halligan, you can take the point of the Halligan, and you can drive it into the door jamb, right? And then you can push down on the fork end, and what's that going to do? Now the adze is against the door. You can actually create a lever, and you can pop a door open like that, just using your axe and your Halligan without even attacking the locks.
And if you practice enough, and this is why you should have like plywood or something, you could do this back at the firehouse. You hold on to the fork end and you do the baseball swing with the adze and the horn.
Yep.
And you swing it in there and you bam right into that jam.
Bury it in the
jam. And then you pull and you pop. And and I'll tell you, there's something pretty exciting as a boss when you see someone that knows their shit when it comes to 4th century walk up and pop a door like it's magic. And
like in 2 swings.
And they don't do it and they smile. They just do it because they're good at it. And that didn't happen overnight. That happened because they understood their tools, they understood their still areas, they understood what they had to deal with. They talked to the older guys and gals who've been doing this for a while, saying, okay, look, I want to be good at this, And one of the things, one of our shows in the future, I mentioned it today, and for those of you that know me, I'm a big Motown fan. I'm a big Motown fan, the Temptations, the Four Tops, and all that. And they did they did the making of Motown, or Hitsville. The making of Motown was a special on Showtime, and my wife and I watched it. And Barry Gordy, who's legendary, his business plan was incredible for how he ran. It was unbelievable. Like right off the assembly lines at Ford, where he worked, is how he ran that place, and that was a success. One of the phrases, as he connects the boxes, you got to get the talent, you have to do this, to the final outcome. One of them was, and I love this, and it's actually an article I'm going to be doing. I wrote some notes on it already on the airplane. Is competition breeds champions, and he said, now you have to love what you're doing, because without the love for what you do comes ego, and it screws everything up. But competition breeds champions, and we've said this, John. We've talked about it. Don't you want to be good at what you do? Yeah. When it comes to forcible entry, don't you want to be the one that they're looking for and they're going, Johnson, get over here. Gary Apple, one of our favorite. Gary, he's a captain now, but I mean, yeah. Gary, come on. Those kinds of guys could get into anywhere. You would thought in your previous life, were you like a burglar? Because these guys could get in anywhere.
Because you only really get 1 or 2 quick shots at it. Again, back to the Bronx, back to the Lower East Side of Manhattan, a couple of places I worked at. When you're at the door and you're forcing the door up, if what you were doing doesn't work, you're not staying there long. Somebody's going to elbow you away, and they're going to jump in there and get the job done. Okay? Nobody's going to sit there all day long while you try this and try that and try this and try that. So being able to quickly size the door up, being able to quickly use the proper tool, whether it's the axe, whether it's the Halligan, whether it's the rabbit tool, whether it's the K tool, all these options are there. They're all right there at the door. They're all there. You got to pick the right tool, match it to the lock, match it to the jam, match it to the strength of the door, the swing of the door. All sorts of other things. You get 1 or 2 quick shots, and then somebody else is going to push you off to the side.
And if you don't bring the tools with you, we've said this before. How in God's name does a firefighter get off the rig nowadays? Unless you're the nozzleman and you go stand next to the hose bed and wait for they ask you to stretch a line or not. How do you get off the rig without your tools? How do you get off without a Halligan, without some means to get in? And how about this, John? We haven't mentioned this. we've been talking forcible entry. How about force exit? How about you get jammed up, you can't go
Inside.
and you're inside and going, it would have been nice if somebody brought, a tool with them so we can get our asses out of this.
And you know what? I know it's your job as a firefighter to get off the rig with the proper tools. Number one, some guys don't have tool assignments like some departments have. But whether you have tool assignments or not, the guy getting out of the front seat, the guy or the gal, the officer, they're the ones that should be saying, Tommy, get a set of irons. Billy, grab another axe and a hook. They should be making sure. If you're the officer, you're the one that's responsible in the end for making sure that you get a good complement of tools grabbed off the rig when you're going in.
And how about this? Is how about the props? How about being creative? Captain Seth Taylor, we just had him on a Hump Day Hangout show from Louisville, Texas. If you're looking for a forcible entry door that you can't kill, that you can't hurt, but you could do like a million things with, get a hold of him. He'll, you're going to pay him, but you're going to buy from him, but you're going to get something that will last you forever. But it's like the burglar bar props with the rebar against the wall, the locks assemblies. You go to YouTube too. You can go to YouTube and go forcible entry prop, and all of a sudden it'll be days before you're done. Watch all the videos on how to build this, and
you don't have to spend $2,000, $3,000, $6,000. And I'm not knocking those tools.
Right.
Some of those forcible entry props that you can buy for a couple of grand, they will last you forever. You could use them every day, all day, and they'd be wonderful. But you know what? For places that's out of the question for, there's stuff you can build. And just about every firehouse I was ever in, and particularly the last one, 58 truck with 45 engine, 58 truck built a metal frame down the basement, and one day I felt the building shaking. I went downstairs. I said, "What the hell is going on here?" "Oh, they're building something downstairs, Chief." And I went downstairs, and there they are, putting a metal frame together of a forcible entry prop. And then, luckily for us, right down the block in the battalion was a fire door company, a place that built and manufactured fire doors. And when they made a mistake, it had a miscut or a bend in it, they would throw it off on a pile on the side. Guys would drive down there, they'd give you 2 or 3 doors. We'd put them up, zip, 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 with the metal screw gun, hit to the hinges, force the crap out of them. When they were all bent up, we'd take them out, swap them around. We'd put the bent up edge where the hinges are, screw it on. Now we had the new edge again. We'd screw that side up and then throw the door away. And then we get another one.
I know, guys, that's Tommy again. If he saw a length of chain on the ground, fell off somebody's stuff or whatever, or at a job site that somebody was throwing out, he was always grabbing chains. And you could build this, right? You could build this thing, and you could string chains up. And you could find locks. You could find locks that people don't have keys to anymore. They're throwaways. And you could take those links that you could open and close, so you can link chain to it. You can simulate
the snow chain links.
Yeah. See, some of these things you can simulate, and have your guys in the back of the firehouse, out back, cutting, breaking, chopping, whatever. Before you have to go out and do it at 2 a.m. when people are hollering, yelling, "Hey, we got to get in there, we got people," or whatever. The props, if you're creative, and everybody, oh my God, you're firefighters. Everybody's got that firefighter.
And how do you get through a chain without a machine? How do you get through a chain without a saw? Well, you know what? With an axe and a Halligan. Number one, you can take the Halligan, you can take the point of the Halligan through one of the links of the chain and just wail on that with an axe, and you're going to break through that link one way. Next way is you can put the fork on the chain, and you can twist it, twist it, twist it. Eventually the chain's going to all twist up and link up, and eventually you're going to break one of the links going that way too. So it's not like you have to have a saw. You don't have to have a whizzer saw. You don't have to have a partner saw. Even just with an axe and a Halligan, you can get through a chain.
Yeah, and like I said, be prepared. Have the right tools. Have your saw set up the right way. No forcible entry. There's some great videos out there.
Great class down the road. We'll talk about saws. Another good class coming up.
There we go.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, another episode of Old School, buddy. You want to finish things out for us?
You know what? We talk about a lot of different things here on Old School, and some of them are tactics, some of them are strategy, some of them are firehouse, ideas and moods and do's and don'ts. But we enjoy working with everybody. We enjoy giving you some tips, some stuff that we learned. We invented hardly anything that we talk about. Most of it was given to us by our mentors and our senior people. But what we always say at the end of every show is, never forgetting is never forgetting. Thank you.